Stop for a moment and breathe, because what you're about to hear might shake the way you've been living your entire life. There is a quiet truth hidden inside every woman who gives too much, loves too deeply, and shrinks herself just to keep the peace. And today, that truth is going to rise. So stay until the very end, because if you do, you will walk away with a mindset shift that can change your confidence forever. There is a strength inside you that the world has tried to soften, a fire that life has tried to dim. And every time you forced a smile, swallowed your hurt, or acted kinder than you felt, another piece of that fire faded. You didn't lose your power in one moment. You lost it slowly, every time you chose to stay quiet instead of standing strong. Every time you tried to be the good woman, the understanding woman, the kind woman, who never complains and never asks for more. But today is not another day of being that version of yourself. Today is the beginning of something harder, something braver, something the world is not ready for, but you are. Because kindness without limits does not make you noble. It makes you invisible. And you were not born to live your life unseen. There is a reason you feel exhausted even when you do everything right. There is a reason people keep crossing lines you never agreed to. There is a reason your heart feels heavy when others look at you as if you exist only to serve, to help, to fix, to support. You've been carrying the weight of everyone's comfort, and in the process, you forgot your own. You convinced yourself that being kind would keep the peace. But peace without respect is not peace at all. Peace built on your silence is just a slow destruction of your worth. And deep down, you know it. You felt it every time you walked away thinking, I should have spoken up. You felt it every time someone thanked you for being understanding, while taking advantage of the fact that you always are. But here's the truth. A woman who is kind without boundaries becomes a target. A woman who gives without limits becomes drained. And a woman who chooses others before herself eventually forgets who she was before she started bending. Today, your story takes a different direction. Because you're going to hear the words no one told you when you were learning to be nice. You're going to learn something the world rarely teaches women, that strength is not an attitude you put on when needed. Strength is who you become when you finally stop abandoning yourself. Maybe you grew up believing that the best woman is the one who always gives, the one who forgives too quickly, the one who tolerates too much, the one who is kind even when she's hurting. But this belief has cost you more than you realize. It has cost you respect. It has cost you boundaries. It has cost you confidence. And worst of all, it has cost you the courage to choose yourself. You don't need to become harder. You don't need to become colder. You need to become clearer. Clear about your worth. Clear about what you tolerate. Clear about how you allow others to treat you. Because clarity is power, and the moment a woman becomes clear, she becomes unstoppable. This is not the kind of video that tells you to be gentle with everyone. This is the message that teaches you to protect the parts of you that you've been giving away too freely. Because every time you say yes when your heart says no, you lose a little more of your strength. And every time you choose someone else's comfort over your own truth, you dim a little more of your light. There comes a point when kindness stops being a blessing and starts becoming a burden. And if you feel that weight in your chest, if you feel that tiredness in your bones, then this message is for you. You are not weak for feeling this. You are not dramatic. You are not overthinking. Your soul is telling you it's time to rise. So listen closely. By the end of this video, you will learn how to stop giving your power away. You will learn how to protect your heart without closing it. And you will learn how to become a woman who is respected, not used, valued, not taken for granted, strong, not drained. Stay until the end, because your transformation starts right here, right now. The hidden cost of over-kindness. There is a silent price every overly kind woman pays, and she pays it long before she even realizes something is wrong. It begins with small moments. Moments you convince yourself don't matter. You say yes when you want to say no. You stay when you want to walk away. You give another chance when your heart is begging you to stop. At first, these sacrifices feel harmless, even noble. But slowly, they begin to shape you into someone who carries the weight of other people's comfort more than the weight of her own truth. The hidden cost of over-kindness is not what others take from you. It's what you stop giving to yourself. You stop giving yourself rest. You stop giving yourself respect. You stop giving yourself the permission to prioritize your own needs. And the more you ignore your boundaries, the more invisible you become in your own life. You start existing in a world where everyone else's voice sounds louder than your own. Their needs take priority. Their emotions take center stage, and your inner voice becomes a whisper you barely hear anymore. This slow erosion of self-worth doesn't happen with a dramatic moment. It happens with years of being told you're a good woman, because you never complain, because you never push back, because you never choose yourself first. And over time, you begin to believe that your value comes from how much pain you can tolerate, how much kindness you can extend, and how much of yourself you can sacrifice without breaking. But deep inside, something does break. A quiet heaviness grows in your chest, a tiredness that sleep cannot fix, a sadness that appears even when everything seems fine. This is your soul signaling that you've crossed the line between kindness and self-abandonment. Because when kindness stops being a choice and becomes an expectation, you stop feeling alive. You start surviving instead of living. You deserve a life where your heart is not drained by those who take advantage of your softness. You deserve relationships where your kindness is honored, not exploited. And you deserve the strength that comes from knowing your worth is not measured by how much you give, but by how deeply you value yourself. Why people exploit kind souls? When a woman carries more kindness than confidence, the world reacts to her in a predictable way. People begin to test her limits, not because she deserves it, but because they sense she won't fight back. Human psychology shows that people naturally push where they feel no resistance. And a woman who always forgives, always understands, and always adjusts becomes an easy space for others to take advantage of. It begins subtly. Someone asks for a favor they should handle themselves. Someone speaks to you with a tone they would never use on someone stronger. Someone expects you to sacrifice your plans, your time, your comfort, simply because you always have. The more you give, the more they take. Not out of gratitude, but out of habit. Your kindness becomes their convenience. People don't exploit kind souls because they are evil. They exploit because you've shown them a pattern. You've shown them you will bend. You've shown them you will stay quiet. You've shown them you will absorb hurt without asking for accountability. And in a world where many choose the easiest path, your softness becomes that path. This is why you feel drained around certain people. This is why your kindness sometimes feels like a burden. You keep giving from an empty cup while others drink without thinking. They don't pause to ask how you feel because you've trained them to believe you're always okay. They don't notice your pain because you hide it behind a polite smile. They don't consider your limits because you never state them. But here is the truth you must accept. Being kind is not the reason people misuse you. Being unprotected is. Kindness without boundaries becomes an invitation for the wrong people to enter your life. And when they enter, they don't come to give, they come to take. This is not your fault. It is simply the consequence of giving without balance. When you understand this, something inside you begins to shift. You stop blaming your heart and you start strengthening your spine. Because you cannot control how others behave, but you can control what access they have to your kindness. And the moment you do that, the world begins to treat you differently. Respect replaces entitlement. Distance replaces manipulation. And your kindness, once misused, finally starts to feel like a gift again. The moment you start losing yourself, there comes a quiet moment in a woman's life when she realizes she is no longer living for herself. It doesn't hit suddenly. It arrives in small fragments, an unexplained sadness, a tired smile, a feeling that something inside is fading. This moment usually appears after years of putting others first, years of being the one who understands, supports, forgives, and adjusts. And without noticing, you begin to drift away from the woman you once were. You lose yourself when your needs always come last, when your opinions shrink to keep others comfortable, when your voice becomes softer, not because you are gentle, but because you feel unheard. You start lowering your standards to maintain relationships that no longer deserve you. You start accepting treatment that once would have broken your heart. You start giving people access to parts of you they haven't earned, simply because it feels easier than setting boundaries. This self-loss is subtle but powerful. You wake up one day realizing you're surrounded by people, yet feel deeply alone. You feel emotionally full yet spiritually empty. You feel responsible for everyone else's happiness, but can't remember the last time you felt your own. You smile on the outside while wondering why your heart feels heavier each day. This is the cost of being too kind, too patient, too tolerant. It is the silent erosion of your identity. You lose yourself when you believe you must be strong for everyone except yourself. When you believe your value comes from being agreeable, not authentic. When you silence your pain because you don't want to bother anyone. Over time, this silence becomes a cage. You stop expressing your truth because you're afraid of disappointing others. You stop asking for what you need because you fear being labeled difficult. And that fear becomes the barrier that keeps you stuck. But losing yourself is not the end of your story. It is the signal that you are ready to rise. Because the moment you realize how far you've drifted, you also awaken to your own power. You awaken to the fact that your life cannot continue this way. You awaken to the truth that your voice matters, your feelings matter, your boundaries matter. And from that realization, the process of returning to yourself begins. Strength is not cruelty, it's self-respect. When a woman reaches the point where she feels herself slipping away, she often assumes the only way to reclaim her power is by becoming colder, harder, or emotionally distant. But true strength has nothing to do with cruelty. Real strength is the quiet decision to finally respect yourself. It's choosing to honor your boundaries without apologizing. It's choosing to protect your energy without feeling guilty. It's choosing to value your time, your emotions, and your worth with the same intensity you've given to others. Self-respect doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to change what you accept. It requires you to stop over-explaining your feelings to people who don't listen. To stop giving endless chances to people who waste them. To stop shrinking yourself to fit into places that no longer deserve you. Self-respect teaches you to walk away from anything that makes you doubt your value, even if your heart wants to stay. This kind of strength feels foreign at first, especially for a woman who has spent years believing kindness means endless acceptance. But strength is not the absence of kindness. It is the presence of clarity. It is knowing where your heart ends and where someone else's demands begin. It is understanding that being a good woman does not mean being a woman who endures everything. When self-respect grows, guilt fades. You no longer feel responsible for fixing every broken situation. You no longer let others decide how much of yourself you're allowed to express. You no longer absorb the discomfort others project onto you. Instead, you learn to stand with a calm and steady truth. Your worth is non-negotiable. The moment you embrace this truth, people's reactions change. Some will respect you more. Others will walk away because they can no longer benefit from your lack of boundaries. Either way, you win, because strength reveals who belongs in your life and who never deserved a seat there. And when you choose self-respect, you choose yourself, fully, confidently, and without hesitation. The power of boundaries. Once a woman understands that strength is rooted in self-respect, she starts to see the true purpose of boundaries. They are not walls built out of fear. They are lines drawn from wisdom. Boundaries are the quiet statements that say, my time matters, my heart matters, my peace matters. And the moment you begin to set them, your entire world shifts. For too long, you believed that saying no would make you selfish. You believed that walking away would make you cold. You believed that choosing yourself would make you unkind. But boundaries are not an act of rejection, they are an act of protection. They protect the parts of you that have been exhausted, stretched, and overlooked. They protect the woman you are becoming, not the woman who tolerated everything. When you set boundaries, something powerful happens inside you. Your confidence begins to rise because you are no longer betraying yourself to please others. Your mind becomes lighter because you are not carrying responsibilities that were never yours. Your heart becomes stronger because you finally give it space to breathe. And yes, some people will resist your boundaries. Not because they care about your well-being, but because your lack of boundaries benefited them. They were comfortable with the version of you who always said yes, who always made time, who always accepted less than she deserved. But you are no longer that version. You are stepping into a woman who is tired of being drained, tired of being taken for granted, and tired of pretending that everything is okay. Boundaries teach people how to treat you. They show others that your kindness has a backbone. They show that your giving nature is not endless. And they show that your heart, no matter how soft, is not available for misuse. This shift does not make you difficult. It makes you whole. It transforms you from someone who is constantly pulled in every direction into someone who walks with intention, certainty, and inner peace. And once you feel that peace, once you experience life where your energy is valued and your heart is protected, you never return to the version of you that allowed everyone to cross lines that were never meant to be crossed. Becoming emotionally unshakable. When boundaries become a part of your life, something even deeper begins to grow within you. Emotional strength. This isn't loud, aggressive, or confrontational. It is quiet, steady, and unshakable. Emotional strength is the ability to remain centered, even when others try to pull you off balance. It is the power to stay rooted in your truth, regardless of how people react to it. You become emotionally unshakable the moment you stop allowing other people's moods to control your own. You stop taking responsibility for feelings that don't belong to you. You stop chasing approval from those who were never capable of giving it. Instead, you begin to trust yourself. You begin to listen to that inner voice you once ignored. You begin to realize that peace is not something you find in others. It is something you build within. This strength grows every time you refuse to be manipulated by guilt. Every time you choose calm over chaos. Every time you respond with clarity instead of emotional desperation. You start seeing situations for what they are, not what you hope they could become. You stop trying to save people who benefit from staying broken. And slowly, you reclaim the emotional space that once belonged to everyone but you. Being emotionally unshakable doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop being controlled. It means you can love without losing yourself, give without being drained, support without sacrificing your own soul. This kind of strength protects your heart more than any defense ever could. And yes, your transformation might unsettle some people. Those who were used to your emotional softness may no longer recognize the woman you are becoming. They may call you distant, changed, or different. But that difference is your power. That difference is the boundary they once crossed so easily. That difference is the peace you've spent years earning. When your emotions are no longer dictated by others, your life becomes lighter, your mind becomes clearer, and your heart becomes a place where strength and kindness can finally exist together. This is the version of you that cannot be shaken, because she no longer stands on the fragile ground of seeking approval. She stands on the solid foundation of her own worth. Reclaiming your voice, emotional strength naturally leads to something profound, the return of your voice. For years, your voice may have been quiet, careful, or hidden. You spoke softly to avoid conflict. You held back your truth to avoid judgment. You suppressed your needs because you believed they were too much, too heavy, or too inconvenient. But when you become emotionally grounded, something shifts inside you. You begin to understand that your voice is not a threat. It is your power. Reclaiming your voice does not mean becoming loud. It means becoming honest. It means finally speaking from a place of self-worth instead of fear. It means saying what you feel without editing yourself to fit someone else's expectations. With every honest word you speak, you break a little more of the silence that once kept you small. You start expressing your needs without hesitation. You state your boundaries without apology. You speak up when something feels wrong instead of enduring it quietly. And this honesty becomes a new form of strength, one rooted in clarity rather than anger. Reclaiming your voice also changes the way you think. You stop replaying conversations in your mind, wishing you had said more. You stop walking away from situations feeling unheard. You no longer swallow your truth to protect anyone's comfort. Instead, you step into conversations with confidence, knowing that your feelings deserve space, your thoughts deserve value, and your truth deserves to be spoken. As your voice returns, people begin to see a different version of you. The woman who once stayed silent now stands firm. The woman who once softened her tone now speaks with calm certainty. The woman who once avoided difficult conversations now faces them with strength. This shift doesn't make you harsh. It makes you real. And the more you use your voice, the more natural it becomes. You realize that speaking your truth does not push away the right people. It attracts them. Your voice becomes a filter, revealing who genuinely respects you and who only valued your silence. And as you continue to reclaim your voice, you step deeper into the woman you were always meant to be: strong, confident, and unapologetically authentic. Transforming kindness into power. Kindness has always been seen as a soft quality, something gentle and giving. But when unprotected, it becomes a weakness. The real transformation happens when kindness is paired with strength, wisdom, and self-respect. When you stop letting your heart be a doorway for exploitation, kindness turns into power. It becomes intentional, controlled, and unstoppable. True power comes from understanding that giving does not mean losing. You can care deeply without sacrificing your dignity. You can support without being drained. You can love without allowing others to take advantage. This is the art of transforming kindness into power, knowing your value and allowing your generosity to be guided by intelligence rather than habit. When kindness becomes power, the way people respond to you changes. Those who once saw you as easy to manipulate now see a woman whose heart is strong and deliberate. Your actions are no longer dictated by guilt, fear, or the need for approval. Every act of kindness carries weight because it comes from choice, not obligation. You become a force that is respected, not used, admired, not taken for granted. This transformation also shifts your inner world. You no longer feel exhausted by giving. You no longer feel drained by the expectations of others. Your energy becomes protected. Your heart becomes selective. And your confidence grows quietly but steadily. Every time you act with intentional kindness, you reinforce the truth. Your strength and your heart are not separate. They exist together, in balance. A woman who masters this is unstoppable. She attracts people who value her depth, her compassion, and her boundaries. She no longer tolerates those who attempt to exploit her softness. And every time she chooses herself first, not selfishly, but wisely, she reinforces a cycle of respect that shapes her life completely. Transforming kindness into power is not an overnight change. It begins with small choices: saying no when you should, speaking up when it matters, and honoring your own needs. But once you start, everything shifts. The woman who once gave endlessly now gives with purpose. Her kindness no longer leaves her weak. It makes her formidable. And that is the power every woman deserves to claim. Building a strong, confident identity, strength and confidence do not come from approval or recognition. They come from knowing yourself deeply and standing firm in that truth. A woman who has learned to protect her heart, set boundaries, and transform her kindness into power now faces the final step: building a strong identity that cannot be shaken. This identity is not built on the opinions of others, nor on temporary achievements. It is built on clarity, self-trust, and the refusal to compromise on what matters most. When you commit to knowing yourself, every decision becomes easier. You stop doubting your instincts, second-guessing your choices, or shrinking to fit someone else's expectations. You begin to move through life with intention, acting from a place of authenticity rather than fear. Confidence arises naturally when every action reflects the woman you know yourself to be. A strong identity also means taking full responsibility for your life. You stop blaming others for your unhappiness. You stop seeking constant validation. You stop giving your power away to people who are not invested in your growth. Instead, you center yourself. You build habits, routines, and thought patterns that reinforce your worth. You invest in your mind, your body, and your emotional well-being. Every effort you make strengthens the foundation of the woman you are becoming. This confidence is magnetic. People are drawn to a woman who knows her value, not because she demands attention, but because her presence is undeniable. Her words carry weight. Her actions carry intention. Her energy communicates strength without arrogance. And the more she trusts herself, the more others learn to respect her boundaries, her decisions, and her space. Building a strong identity is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is about refusing to abandon yourself when life tests you. It is about walking through challenges without losing sight of who you are. Every choice to honor yourself reinforces your confidence. Every moment you act in alignment with your worth strengthens the woman within. When your identity is strong, confidence is no longer fragile. You do not seek approval, you command respect. You do not fear being alone, you embrace your own company. And as you continue to live from this place of authenticity, you become the woman who cannot be underestimated, the woman whose strength is felt before a word is spoken, and the woman whose life is guided by her own unwavering truth. Final awakening message now. Everything you have learned leads to this moment, the awakening of the woman who no longer sacrifices herself for the comfort of others. She has realized that strength is not found in endless giving, but in knowing where to draw the line. She understands that her kindness is a gift, not a tool for others to take. And she knows that her voice, her heart, and her time are not open for exploitation. They are sacred. The world may resist this version of you. It may try to pull you back into old patterns, to make you apologize for being firm, or to convince you that your strength is unnecessary. But you have already learned the truth. Your worth is non-negotiable. Your peace is priceless. Your boundaries are essential. You are no longer the woman who bends to fit everyone else's expectations. You are the woman who shapes her life by her own standards. Walking away from what no longer serves you is no longer a fear. It is a choice. Saying no without guilt is no longer a challenge. It is a declaration. Protecting your energy, honoring your needs, and standing firmly in your truth has become your natural state. This is not cruelty. This is courage. This is self-respect. And the reward of this transformation is extraordinary. You will find clarity where there was confusion. You will find peace where there was constant compromise. You will attract people who respect your heart and your strength, and your life will no longer revolve around those who fail to see your value. You will finally experience the freedom of living unapologetically, fully, and powerfully. Remember, the woman who stops being too kind is not losing her heart, she is claiming it. She is no longer giving pieces of herself to those who don't deserve them. She is no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. She is walking into her own power with confidence that radiates from within, unshakable and undeniable. This is your awakening. This is your moment to rise. Stop shrinking, stop pleasing, stop giving yourself away. Step fully into your strength and walk with the confidence that nothing and no one can take what you have earned. Your life belongs to you, and from this day forward, it will reflect the courage, wisdom, and unstoppable power of the woman you were always meant to be.